There it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to the Tuesday, December 12th, 2023 regular meeting for the Hayden City Council. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Abby, could I please have a roll call of members?
Council President Roeder?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Here.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
And Councilmember White?
Yes.
I'd like to ask Councilmember Roger Satterfield to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, are there any additions or corrections to the agenda? I do have one that I would like to make. Our Planning and Zoning Commission members are not here tonight to give us an update, so we will scratch item 3A from the agenda tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, as many of you have heard me say before, the City Hall does business 5 days a week, 9 hours a day. Many of the actions that City Hall staff take require no action from City Council at all. However, some of the things that city staff do require the approval or the consent of council. The items on number 1 tonight on our consent calendar are 1A, the approval of the November 28th, 2023 City Council meeting minutes. 1B, the approval of the greater rental agreement with Prime Time Construction. 1C, the approval of the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board wastewater treatment plant facility upgrades payment request. 1D, the approval of Buttercup Townhomes final plat and authorize the mayor to sign the plat. 1E, the approval of JUB Engineers authorization for contract amendment for the Ramsey Road Gravity Sewer Phase 2. 1F, the approval of the 2023 annual road and street financial report. 1G, the ratification of our November payroll, and 1H, the approval of bills for payment. Council members, all of these items have been provided for you in your packet. Do we have any comments or questions from council? Ms. White.
Yes, I have a question on the invoice report, approval for bills for payment, letter H. On page 16, I have a question about the $49,000 for the National Native American Construction.
For the elevator.
Page 16?
Yep. And get to
Remodel elevator. Yeah.
related to the last bit of City Hall remodel. Yeah. What was the question?
What's the question?
What is that for, the $49,000?
That's for remodel of City Hall.
Okay. All right, so this was part of a budgeted item? Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you. And then below that, 2 spaces is the North Fork Enterprises for $201,000.
Okay.
That's for the Phase 1, Ramsey Phase 1 gravity sewer.
Okay, and that's also a budgeted item? Okay, all right, thank you.
For council's station here, unless I'm mistaken, all the items contained in this report are all budgeted items. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you.
Mayor, I have just one real quick. This is a little item, but on numerous pages going from 11 to 13, it's real estate, real property assessment for $5.74, and there's probably 30 or 40 of those. Is that because of the problem with the assessor's office that created that?
No, we for the little bit that I was able to research, we get that bill every year, and we don't pay any of the other lines except the one line. Let me see if they wrote it on here. I looked that up. I think it's related to the Aquifer.
The Aquifer Protection Board, so that's what that was, a refund because they paid it and
We owe that.
we're
part.
collecting it for
No,
behalf.
we're paying the county assessor for that portion of the
Okay.
property tax bill. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Didn't know if I said it the way it was meaning to come out.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, I'd appreciate a motion from council regarding the disposition of the consent calendar tonight? Mr. DePriest,
I would move to approve the consent calendar as listed.
we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Abby?
Council President Roder?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest?
Yes.
Motion passes. Item number 2 is visitor and public comment. Ladies and gentlemen, if you would wish to speak tonight to council, if you would fill out a request from the back of the room here, it's on the table as you came in, fill it out and bring it up to us, and we will call on you in order. Oh, great. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, if you wish to speak, please fill out the card from the table at the back, bring it up here to the front. Public comments are limited to 5 minutes. At approximately the 4-minute mark, I will waive this paper to let you know you have 1 minute remaining. We expect commenters to be respectful of other citizens and council members. Council will not hear comments on any planning and zoning matter that is before the city or is known to be a likely application. Council, when it is your turn to speak, please approach the podium, state your name and whether or not you reside within the Hayden city limits. This is a meeting of the Hayden City Council. While it takes place in public, it is not a meeting with the public. It is a meeting of the city council to do city business. Public comment is only allowed regarding topics not on tonight's agenda or upcoming quasi-judicial matters. Please keep in mind that the council will not generally respond to public comments. The mayor and council are available by phone, email, or by visiting City Hall at any time you wish. Our first commenter tonight is Jim Harbaugh. Hello, Mr.
Allowing me
Harbaugh.
to speak. Good evening, everybody. Merry Christmas and New Year's to you all. In case I forget.
Mr. Harbaugh, could you state your name, please?
Yes, Jim Harbin. I live in Hayden.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Two things I want to say. I'd like the council to consider this as soon as possible. That is that I came in once before and brought up the issue with law enforcement being able to come out to a call and just handle it in any manner they deem necessary, without necessarily having to have a signed complaint and a thing for the complaining party needing to arrest the person, so to speak. I think that may have been taken care of, I'm not sure, but I want to reiterate that. I'm having a lot of problems on Hillview, north of me, and I also like the fire department to be able to do the same, because I have some people in the area that just think that nothing against renters. Everybody south of me that's a renter are very lovely people, very lovely families. Everybody north of me is a pain in my saddle, okay? And is a problem for this city. And what I mean by that is that some people have businesses. Okay, fine. But correct me if I'm wrong. There's a quiet time from 8 o'clock at night to 6 in the morning. I'm not positive on that, but I'm thinking that. So children go to bed about 8 o'clock. When you start pulling in big, heavy vehicles and clanging at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, or going out at 3:30 in the morning till 4:15 clanging, throwing wheels, chains and all that. And the last time, Mr. Mayor, you told everybody to pull their trailers and everything off the road because of snow clearing and stuff like that. That was made clear to everybody. So again, this particular individual just feels that they can leave 3 trailers out there, and it's beginning to look like the third world, okay? There's plenty of room in the backyard to store stuff, but he refuses. He refuses to put things on the side of the house where you can store things, not by the gas meter, and also in the driveway, which he refuses to do. I've tried to work with this individual for bad, unhealthy, dangerous trees that come over my fireplace, won't work with me, won't give me the name of the owners. I've tried that. I came into the city. The city was very efficient, very helpful, very professional with me, helped me, and they sent out letters. Finally, one house, they took that branch down. It was a danger to the children for about 8 months, And so I'd like you to consider giving, make sure that the police have the authority that can roll up, because I really don't feel like this individual is 1/3 my age. I'm pushing 70, okay? And I try to be peaceful, but when I work with somebody for 6 months, I'm a little bit tired of it. And if you come to my house, I'm not afraid to sign the complaint, but I don't feel that I have to wake up my autistic son at 3:30, 4 o'clock in the morning so I can have a talk with the lawman. That's unnecessary. They can just go up there and say, knock it off, or give them a ticket, or hook them up, one or the other. I'm done with that. So please consider that tonight. It's a quick vote. It's an up or down. Okay, give the police department, the fire department, they come in and say, knock it off. Put the stuff in the backyard or where it belongs, not out here, because it ruins the property value. And you get your budget by the property value. If I move, I take nothing from the city. I bring my pension. My boys, half of them are ex-military. We spend money. We cause no problems. And if I move, the renter doesn't pay taxes. I do. Okay? And I try to come here and take part with the city. My second thing I want to say is this. Is there any law enforcement here? Yes, no. I wanted to know if there's national security and there's city security. Okay, real quick. So I wanted to know how much of I know there's that, what's they call that, not FEMA, but where you can't ask people their medical stuff. I get that. But they ask you everywhere you go. You got your shop record. I could care less about that. My point is this. I wanted to know how many sworn officers have been vaccinated. Since we contract with them, we need to know how many have been vaccinated. In fact, shot. Okay. The reason is this. It's a deadly disease. I don't care what anybody says. You can wear all the masks you want. You can go and knock yourself out and take all the shots and boosters you want. Okay? It's deadly. It's a bioweapon. It was created to kill Americans and to depopulate this country. So I want to know, the sheriff has the authority. I'm not upset with you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just talking. Okay?
Understand. No offense taken.
I have great respect for you. And he has the duty to go to all these clinics in the city of Hayden and the county, but the city of Hayden says we contract, and take all those vaccines out of there, confiscate them, and take them and burn them as bioweapons. It's going to come out. You're going to find out. I'll tell you real quick. The military is 1,000% heart failure. Our pilots, national security, 1,000% heart failures. The airlines, they're dropping. So I'm saying is that he should be going out there and confiscating these vaccines. They're poisonous. They've killed 100,000 children already, and the children are not sick. Thank you. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Harbin. Mr. Harbin, if you would like to come by City Hall tomorrow, we might be able to try to ask the sheriff to answer that question that you had.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Teresa Roth.
I am Teresa Roth, and I am a Hayden homer, and I'm going to talk about her.
Roth, are you a resident of the city of Hayden?
I am a Hayden homeowner and the mother of 5 Hayden grandchildren. I am going to talk about HURRA. And I believe when this issue first come up, I wrote all city council members a letter about this. So I think maybe a month ago, I brought up some of these issues, but because of the open house, I'm going to reiterate some of them. There was people who are very opposed to HURRA. I'm not a great fan, but I did not take the, no HURRA stand. Instead, in the letter to you, I made a distinction between certain properties that I thought were very worthwhile to include and projects that were very much worth doing. Then I pointed out some projects that I thought were very, very questionable and gave reasons for why. In particular, I supported the fixing of the government way traffic problems, but I was strongly opposed to the inclusion of 2 undeveloped commercial properties north of Lancaster. In regard to the proposed expansion, I wanted to point out that the letter, the official expansion letter for HURA said that everything on that list was based on a workshop, a joint workshop with the city council, April 14th. I have the minutes from that workshop, and no projects north of Lancaster were mentioned. So there is not any basis for including those. So when I attended that HURA open house last week, my intention was to go there and find out what those projects were, since no explanation for them has been given. So I talked directly to the HURA director about the expansion, and I first asked about the government. I did have some questions about the projects on Government Way. She was very informed and very helpful when I was talking about the traffic things, and that actually reassured me that, yes, this is a good idea to do. This is important, and it's been thought through. But when I started asking about the projects north of Lancaster, she declined to give me any type of direct answer. She first said that they were included in HURA so that they could make improvements to Crowfoot Park. But this doesn't make any sense, because there is a different parcel in the expansion, which is directly adjacent to Crawford Park and includes the necessary right-of-way. The commercial properties that I am referring to are almost a mile east of Crowfoot Park and on the opposite side of Lancaster. So I pointed out that there must be some other reason that they were included, and I asked her several times what her intentions for the commercial properties were, but I failed to get an answer. Instead, she started asking me questions. Did I know who the property owners were? What did I think should be built there? And when I continued to press the matter, I was then approached by a city councilman and another HURA board member who appeared annoyed at me for asking. And they also began questioning me. How long had, I lived in the area? Did I live in Hayden? And why was I concerned about these things? All I was asking was a very simple, straightforward question that should have been easy to answer. At that point, I realized that no further discussion would be helpful, and I left. But it seems that the CDA Press was able to get more information than I was, because in the next day's paper, it was reported that, quote, the properties north of Lancaster will likely be developed soon. So that it gets even stranger. The next day, I posted the following comment in a group chat. Quote, it is obvious that something is being planned north of Lancaster, but neither the HURA representatives or the city council member who clearly knows what is being planned is willing to disclose these plans, and the public is being kept in the dark. The city council member, when he saw the post, was very disturbed and denied knowing anything about the property and accused me of making inflammatory and defaming allegations by inferring that he knew what plans for the property. I pointed out that he and the other council members should know what the plans for the property are before deciding whether or not to include them in his district, and I pointed out that if he really doesn't know what the plans for the property are, then he should be the one asking the HURA director, not me. I'm going to just close by saying two things. Number one, this does indicate that there is some sort of a problem because we are not getting clear answers for whatever's going on north of Hayden. The other problem is the way in which I was treated by these representatives of city. I was trying to be polite, but I was also asking direct questions, and I got a lot of stonewalling and diversions, and it was just, I felt very inappropriate. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next commenter is Nancy Sue Wallace.
Hi, I'm Nancy Sue Wallace, 2345 East Bar Harbor Road, Hayden Lake, Idaho. Thank you for
And you
letting
know
me-
the difference. That's great.
Of course I know the difference. I'm here to thank Roger. How many years has it been, Roger?
Over 16.
Yeah, I spent 10 years on the Hayden or Coeur d'Alene City Council, so I have an idea of what you've been doing for the last 16 years. And I appreciate your support for HURA and the Art Commission and for letting me be chair of both. I'm going to miss you. And I know that a lot of people in the city will miss you. So I just want to thank you for your service and give you a little surprise.
Thank you.
Let me give you a hug. I know that's probably not legal.
What are they gonna do, recall me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Wallace. We now move on to the next item on our agenda, the commission report. We are pleased to have Mr. Stephen Gazdauskas
Yes, that's good.
from the Veterans Commission.
Absolutely.
Nice to see you here tonight, sir.
My pleasure, Mayor.
And did I almost get your name right, Stephen?
Very, very close.
Thank you very much.
We'll have to have another
struggled-
term so we can practice it. Okay? As I said, good evening, Mayor Forcell, city councilors, and staff of the city of Hayden. You know, it's always great to be up here because I always know that I have people who really care about what they do, and it's evident by what people say here. Anyway, I'd like to report that since our June 27th meeting, the commission has done various events within the community, and I'd like to outline them to you right now. First of all, we kicked off our gun show for a raffle fundraiser on June 13th. That was in the last period because we started it before the last time I announced. And it was done very, very capably by our Commissioner Dennis Dodd. Dennis Dodd was an expert in doing these things, and with the 7-member group that we had to do them, we really did well because the shotgun fundraiser, which was concluded then on the 7th of September, we had proceeds of $3,060. And as a result of that, what we did is turned it around, and 4 veterans organizations received $712 each for the efforts that we made. And these organizations are New Beginnings of North Idaho, the Veterans Stand Down of North Idaho, the Veterans Commission, the Veterans County Commission, Dental Assistance Committee, and finally the Marine Corps League, number 966 for Toys for Tots. These are all very worthy of our interests and efforts. And so we were gratified to do that. Then the next event was the Saturday, October 28th, Fright Night. And Roy Reel of our commission was instrumental in managing 150 vehicles to get through that whole event without incident and made for a very smooth event. He's a capable man who does that, and he is the past commissioner for us, the chair, who works very, very hard. He's now chair of the County Veterans Commission, and he's doing a great job on that. That wasn't a paid political announcement, and he didn't hear it, so I'm not getting any money for this. Then the next thing that we did was, of course, the Veterans Day ceremony. And although that it was quite a day, if you were out there, there were about 300 people in attendance that day. And the weather was pretty miserable from where my point of view was, because we were up on the podium and we were getting dropped in with a lot of pine cones and high winds. And everything short of a snowstorm or a rainstorm occurred that day because it was cold. So we were up there shivering and talking, but we managed to get it done. And I'd like to tell you, if you didn't attend, that we had 2 very noteworthy people there. One was the Distinguished Veteran of the Year, Christopher Spatz, who was both a combat arms member for the Army and also, as you might guess, in the Marine Corps, you're automatically combat arms because that's what they do. And he was a decorated, very decorated veteran. And there've been a lot of great people that have been as Veteran of the Year. But I think this man was pretty much there for us. And also I could just mention that Dennis, in fact, recommended him and he went through with flying colors. Also at that event, Captain Bill Muck, who is a retired U.S. Air Force pilot with many years of experience on both C-135 tanker aircraft as well as B-1 bombers, spoke to us, and he is now an ordained minister. So he had quite a tale to tell in the address that was given that day. All in all, it was a very a great event. And while Susie was in absence, we thought about her a lot. But her assistant, Kristen Eastrecker, thank you. Thank you so much. Did really an exponential job in seeing to it that it went off well. And so we're very proud of that. Not only the attendance, but the people who came and how it went. And finally, the Hayden Lights. We had Tim Turner, who's on the commission, and his wife come by, and that was on the 2nd of December. And they turned out to be very good judges of the floats that occurred. So that rounds out what we did as far as that's concerned. I want to hark back, though, to the summer timeframe, and I want to compliment both the mayor, the council, and the support that we got, because as a veteran, one of the most important things that we had as a shortcoming in this county was the fact that we are helping one veteran service officer for about 16,000 veterans. And it was brought to our attention, and therefore we turned it around and we asked the city of Hayden to do this, as well as some other key other community partners. And we now have 2 for that number on account of your, and I want to thank you and congratulate you on that. And this is something that I hope that will go on in the Veterans Commission, that when something of community interest that transcends not only what's going on in Hayden, but what might be going on in the region occurs, and we have a chance to chime in on it, that we in fact do that. So I wanted to make sure that happened. We sent out a letter on the 7th of June, and as of today, and I talked with the second person, whose first name is Jessica, and I don't know the last name. They are ensconced in doing the job, and we are now able to serve veterans more efficiently and with less wait time. So I want to personally say thank you for that great service. And since I'm getting close to my 5 minutes, I think I'm going to close this way. I want you to know that for the past 7 years, it's been my honor, privilege, and a pleasure to, in fact, be involved with a great community, great leadership, and this controversy. Of course there is, but the point of the matter is I have lived in a lot of places in my 25 years of military service, all over the world, and in some of the places you really wouldn't want to go. But the point of the matter is that Hayden stands out in my mind. Someday, if I can ever come back under different circumstances, I would like to rejoin the commission, because what they do matters, and the people that they have are quality. They're selected by the council, and they're approved by the mayor. I don't know how I got there, but that's another story, won't go into me. But the point of the matter is, it's been an honor, a pleasure, and I want to thank you so much, and I'll come back if I can. And that's about all I have to say. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa, if there is anyone of that kind. There's so many things to say, but it is, as we know about the reason for the season is what it is. And thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Before you step down, on behalf of council, I would like you to know how honored we have been to have you as the head of the Veterans Commission, and the interest and the drive that you have put together to make the Veterans Commission our city's major go-to group when we need something done. When something has to be done, you guys make it happen. And even on a personal note, I enjoy your friendship, and I am honored that you have chosen to spend time with the city of Hayden. We hope to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes.
The next item on our agenda, and Steve, I know you have other things going on this evening, so that's just fine. No offense.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mayor. Everyone, Merry Christmas.
The next item on our agenda tonight, item number 4, is a public hearing. The public hearing is for PZE 23-0110, the PACE Zone Map Amendment. Ladies and gentlemen, in a public hearing, the way it works is that the staff will introduce the subject case, then the applicant will present, then the staff will present a summary of the staff report. Then we will have our public comment, and that public comment is directed to council, not to the audience, please. We will give the opportunity for an applicant to have a rebuttal to specific items that may have been raised during the public comment period. We will then close the public hearing and have council deliberations. Before we begin the hearing, I'd like to ask council if any of you have had any ex parte communication with the applicant or the general public regarding the subject case. If you have, please speak. Hearing none. Okay. Donna, I believe that we'd like to have you introduce the subject case tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is PZE 230110, better known as the PACE Zone Map Amendment Request. So just as a matter of location, it's on the west side of North Reed Road, south of West Miles, and I don't know where my mouse is, there it is. South of West Miles on North Reed Road, more commonly known as 10235 North Reed Road. The applicant is Jeremy Trezulli, and the engineer of record is Eric Olson, both of Olson Engineering, and Jeremy will be presenting on behalf of the applicant. And the owners are Fred and Charla Case, and I believe their daughter, are sitting directly behind Jeremy.
Could you clarify what the address is again?
10275. It's
Thank
like
you.
kind of wide in the middle, yeah. And just as a matter of, as they're presenting, just as to kind of give it context, the existing zone is residential suburban, and the comprehensive plan shows the area as single-family residential. So the request is a zone map amendment from residential suburban to single-family residential. The property currently has a single-family residential structure and the usual accessory structures, and the single lot is approximately 3/4 of an acre in size. Let's see if that's where I left off. And with that, I'll pass it over to Jeremy.
Okay.
There you go. You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, council members, Jeremy Terzulli. I'm a land use consultant working mostly with Olson Engineering, Kimley Haygood, and a few other people around town. Olson Engineering, who is the engineer of record, is based out of Post Falls, Idaho. I personally reside in Hauser, Idaho. So Donna did a good job teeing it up. I don't have a whole lot to add from the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. So I'm going to be fairly brief on this and add a few points of clarification as we move along. So this is a subject property. You'll recall the property to the north, which is actually oriented right on this screen, was the Bassett zone change that we brought before you this previous summer. That was approved by council. And at that time, I sort of introduced you to the PACES because when Paige Bassett and I were working through that project, we did go around the neighborhood and meet with all the neighbors. The PACES were incredibly friendly, invited us in, talked through the whole thing, and at that point in time, they felt that, their needs were being met by the underlying zoning of residential suburban, and that, they wished us luck, but they didn't want to participate. And then, as always happens, life throws you a curveball. Their daughter, Lindsay, who is here this evening, retiring out of the Air Force, said she'd like to come back to the community. And they circled back with me and asked if we might be able to get in on the zone change. At that point in time, we were already in process. And so we had to let that process play through, and then we met with them, and they met with staff. And so this is this application. Reorient yourself now north being up on the screen. The 10275 is the subject property, and the overlay, that is our current design for the Bassett subdivision. The approved fire truck turnaround, or hammerhead, I'm sure you've heard that phrase before. We extended it further south to allow access to the Pace property in order to give them access to the back, because the way that the current house is situated at 10275, the only way to get to that backyard would be sort of a circuitous route around the front yard and through the current RV drive aisle. But any land use action on this property, the city engineers indicated that RV driveway alongside the property, kind of between Page's property and this property, will have to go away. So we were able to work with Page Bassett to the north. He was nice enough to say that, you know, we can extend that infrastructure and give them the appropriate water, sewer, and access to the rear of the property, depending on how this evening goes. So I just wanted to, we're not here to talk about the subdivision, it's just the zone change, but just so you know, this is kind of what we've been working on, and this is sort of the master plan of these two parcels. The standards of approval, you're all very familiar with them. A and B speak more to procedure and any conditions that you might want to put on this, or the commission might want to put on this. So in focusing on C, D, and E, that's what the rest of my presentation and what's in your packet, that's what I honed in on as the standards of approval, and I'll work through those one at a time. Is it in conformance with the comp plan and the future land use map? On the left of the screen is the 2023 adopted zoning map. You can see that the vast majority of the properties, including the Bassett recent zone change, are R1 zoned. Moving to the right of the screen, the future land use map out of the comp plan shows that as this area redevelops, it is anticipated that it'll redevelop as mostly R1 with some of that mixed residential, the light blue that fronts Dakota as you move towards Ramsey Road. Straight out of the comprehensive plan, and I won't go through these and read these off, they're all in the packet and in the Planning and Zoning Commission minutes. But these were the goals and policies that I felt lent the most amount of support to this proposal. And there are many. Regarding the zoning district's purpose and intent, at the bottom of the screen, it sort of identifies straight out of city code, residential suburban zone provides for single family residential, larger lots, that's half acre minimum, with some minimal agricultural uses, perhaps larger gardens, hobby farms, that type of thing, perhaps a horse stable or two would be appropriate in residential suburban. And the residential single family, the R1, very similar, but just on slightly smaller lots. And then the table above, that's straight out of the city code. You can see that the design standards in both districts are nearly identical, with the exception of the lot size and the lot coverage. Everything else the same. Setbacks, accessory dwelling units allowed, and across the board. And I know this is fairly new into your review criteria for this type of request, but I felt as far as the neighborhood context is concerned, I took any of the zoning map and that sort of stuff out of here and just parcel lines on the map to the right. When we add in the fact that the Bassett subdivision to the north, which is it's not in process, we're kind of holding back on that pending the outcome of tonight's hearing. If we were to get approval for this, we would submit those two subdivisions concurrently, which would total 6 for the Bassett and the 7th lot through the Pace zone change. But it's sort of teed up and ready to go. So we add that into the mix and you see that the vast majority of this area are traditional R1 lots, all roughly between 8 and 10,000 square feet. That would represent the vast majority. Some of the ones east of Reed Road are a little closer to a third of an acre, but as you can see, as far as neighborhood context, the lot sizes are all very close to a quarter acre in size. In addition, even at max density, which this was sort of a point that was brought up in the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, for me to be completely honest and transparent with regard to how the trip generation is going to work, technically a third lot is available on this property of 3/4 of an acre, but if you look at the way it lays out, without modifications to the existing house, removal of accessory structures that are actually quite nice, it's nearly impossible to get a third lot in there. But to be completely honest and transparent, I felt like I wouldn't be honest if I didn't say it would create, per the trip generation, a maximum of 3 peak hour vehicle trips per day. The reason I say it's more likely to is because the Paces have no intention of trying to get a third lot in there. They would like to give their daughter a 1/3 acre lot on the west side of their property with access through the Bassett subdivision. So I'm just trying to clear that up. It was brought up. I think Commissioner Gibson misheard me or misunderstood what I was trying to say. But for my peak hour trips per day, to be honest, per the zoning of R1, it would be 3 if we were to put it through the trip generation manual, but that's not how this is going to play out. No additional approaches off of Reed Road. In fact, one would go away. Reed Road improvements would then go all the way from Bassett to the south of Paces and ultimately, hopefully, connect to Mustang Ave. So that would be street widening, sidewalk, street side swales, and improvements along Reed Road. And piggyback off of the Bassett subdivision. So sort of in summary, no additional studies were required. City staff didn't feel there were. No additional conditions or studies were requested by the Planning and Zoning Commission. Utilities are readily available and serving the area. There currently exists a dated AC line that's a asbestos concrete water line on the back of these properties. We're working with the water district to get that water line moved out into Reed Road. That would upgrade their system. We sort of are on an overlap between Avondale and Hayden Lake Irrigation, but in talking with Brandon at Hayden Lake Irrigation, he would like to serve this so that we can get that line out of the back of those properties. The request for the zone change and a subsequent subdivision would align with the district's purpose intent. It's quite consistent with the neighborhood. It's consistent with the future land use map, and it aligns with a bunch of the goals in the policies in the comprehensive plan. And then just, I know we're not here for the subdivision, but this is sort of the sneak peek of what we're trying to accomplish here. Would be preserve Pace's existing home site and outbuildings in their yard and carve off roughly a 1/3 acre with access through the Bassett subdivision so that their daughter can construct a home on that area. And with that, I wanted to turn it over to Lindsay so she can introduce herself, piggyback off of my presentation, and I'll be here for any questions after that.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Pace, and technically I am a resident of Dover, Delaware, but hopefully to change that soon. I'm here to speak in favor of the zone change at 10275 North Reed Road. Because I'm technically still an out-of-stater, I would like to start off by telling you a little bit about myself and my intentions and why I keep saying I'm technically an out-of-stater. I was raised and graduated high school in St. Mary's, just over in south of here, about an hour. A few years after graduating, September 11th happened, and I felt compelled to join the Air Force. It was initially going to be a 4-year enlistment, excuse me, but ended up turning into an amazing career. My last assignment was actually at Dover Air Force Base in Delaware, while I was the air traffic control manager for the air traffic control tower until I retired last year. Throughout my 20-plus years of service, I lived in and visited some incredible and not so incredible locations, to include all over the U.S., Europe, and of course, the Middle East. Whenever I was asked where I was from, the answer was always Idaho, no matter where I happened to be stationed at the time. Idaho was, is, and will always be home to me. Sorry, I'm just happy to be home. I sold my home in Delaware last month and finally got to make that last move across the country. Although I did very well on the sale of my home, I still can't afford to replace it here due to housing prices. This project, if approved, is twofold. It would allow me to finally achieve my dream of affordable home ownership in the location that I want to be for the rest of my life, and it would allow my parents to stay in their home that my dad worked so hard to build for as long as possible. Although they're in decent shape for being in their 70s. I mean, I had to throw that out there. Anyone with aging parents knows that that can change overnight. I want to be close when that happens. One of my older brothers has been here the entire time that I was gone, so it's my chance now to help him bear that load in the distant, hopefully distant future, but inevitable. By being close, I'll be able to help with maintenance and upkeep of the property and hope to keep it in our family for as long as possible. I'm not a Californian or a Washingtonian with deep pockets that wants to buy the property and put a duplex or multiple homes on it. I'm just a single retired veteran that wants a small piece in order to build a modest, comfortable home close to my aging parents, very aging parents, so that I can help them as they transition into retirement and their next, probably last phase of life. I look forward to becoming a valuable and contributing member of this amazing community one way or another, and want to thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. Hopefully this at least helps clarify our intentions and ease any concerns that there may have been. Thank you.
Thank you. You guys didn't bring your IVs tonight, did you?
That was the point I was trying to make when Commissioner Gibson, I guess, postulated that it would be possible to jam extra units in here if a developer so chose. I made a joke, I guess it didn't land. That happens to me a lot, that unless they were the best grifters I've ever met, the intention was genuine. Lindsay and her mom couldn't be here that day because they were packing up her home in Delaware. And with that, I stand for any questions.
Council, questions of Mr. Trezulli?
First, Lindsay, thank you for your service to our country and what that means to all of us. I really appreciate that. And just to be clear, and I think I got it, is that you're planning on only having 2 lots for that parcel, is that
100%.
And it would just her home and the existing home for the parents.
That is correct.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Other comments or questions from council? Ms. White?
Hi. I'd like to thank you also for your service. I'd like to know if there's any plans for accessory dwelling units to be also built.
No, they're not that they have indicated to me.
Okay, thank you.
No.
Other comments or questions of Mr. Trezulli? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate the presentation.
And I appreciate you stepping up when Hayden needed a mayor, and but we've gotten along great since then. I'm kind of sad to see you go. So thank you, Mayor, for so.
Thank you. Donna. We've got Donna will summarize the staff report on this particular application.
Donna summarize.
Now. So as Mr. Trezulli noted, there are 5 standards of approval. The first 2 talk about existing studies and then any additional conditions. And based on the applicant's request, staff didn't believe that there would be a zoning development agreement required, and planning and zoning didn't recommend one either. The third standard of approval identifies that any amendment to the zoning map shall be in accordance with the future land use map and the goals and policies found in the Hayden Comprehensive Plan. So the Hayden Comprehensive Plan identifies single-family residential as being the classic Hayden neighborhood where single-family homes dominate and densities are low, typically ranging from 3 to 4 units per acre. Accessory dwelling units are permitted, but two-family dwellings aren't. And then the goals and policies of the comprehensive plan are found in your staff review, beginning on page 3. It are the ones that staff identified as may be applicable to this request. But all of the goals and policies are found in the appendix of every staff review. There's kind of a palette of them. Staff found a few more than Mr. Truzulli did. But I'm also not going to read those. They've been in your staff review. You've had a chance to review them. Most of them have to do with, maintaining a balance of mix of land uses, densities, and housing types, encouraging development within the corporate limits rather than annexation, preserve and protect the vitality of existing neighborhoods. Pretty much a balance. And then policies are statements providing guidelines for current and future decision-making or position-making. And again, staff found a few more than Mr. Truzulli did. Partially having to do with providing sewer and water and other services, and he commented on most of those in his presentation. Being fiscally responsible and supplying adequate transportation. Evaluating community-wide impacts, which this may or may not have huge wide impacts. Improving pedestrian, bicycle, and vehicular safety along streets, and then coordinating with the local water and irrigation districts, which he identified that this kind of is split right on the boundary between two, and that Hayden Lake Irrigation District would like to get that line out of the back. And then a review of the future land use map shows that the property is pretty much surrounded by single-family residential, with the blue kind of being to the southeast being mixed residential, but they're really all 4 contiguous sides are single-family residential. The 4th standard of approval says that an amendment to the zone map and or zone text shall align with the zone district's purpose and intent. So the existing zone designation is residential suburban. It identifies that as being larger lots for single-family residential and minimal agricultural uses. And then the proposed zone designation of R1 is pretty much the same definition as what's in the future land use map. Classic Hayden neighborhood where single-family homes on smaller lots are permitted. And accessory dwelling units are permitted, but two-family dwellings are not. Mr. Truzulli showed you this previously with the setback. So as he noted, the differences between these two as far as design code and setbacks is accessory structures have a wider side yard setback. In residential suburban, they have a 10-foot setback, whereas in residential single family, they have a 5-foot setback. The lot coverages are 35% for residential suburban and 45% for single family residential. And the minimum lot sizes go from half an acre to about a fifth of an acre. And everything else with the setback and design standards is exactly the same for both those zone designations. So the existing zone is residential suburban. And the surrounding areas to the north are single family residential today. To the west is single family residential. Just past the adjacent lot directly to the south is single family residential, and to the east is single family residential. Directly south is residential suburban, but if this lot is 0.77 acres, then this one is yet smaller. So it barely meets that minimum size requirement for residential suburban, but I believe it does meet it. And then there is 2 lots north that are also remainder lots of that residential suburban zone. So when you're looking at the amendment to the zone map and zone text shall be consistent with the neighborhood contexts, it's really that 300-foot radius. That's what we've used in the past to kind of look at the neighborhood, what could be construed as the neighborhood. Might be farther than that, depends on where you're at. So infrastructure at the time of future development Again, this is a zone map amendment and not a subdivision, but Hayden Lake Irrigation District has identified that water line on the west side that would be pushed out into the right-of-way, out of the backyard. All dry utilities by code will be put underground. The city sewer master plan shows the site is within the H2 basin. The North Lakes Fire Protection District, as Mr. Tizuli noted, will provide information regarding a turnaround and then any fire hydrant placement. The streets will be brought to conformance with the typical section. So the Reed Road will be brought to the city's typical and the internal streets to the local street standards. And the stormwater shall be reviewed at the time of any site plan and/or subdivision development in accordance with city standards. So notice was sent to 25 agencies, and of those 25 agencies, we had 5 that were responded. Panhandle Health District, Harbs, Cuyahoga County Sheriff's District, all replied that they didn't have any concerns or comments. The Irrigation District responded that they had requirements at the time of future development, and in their response said that they were in conversation with the developer. And Idaho Department of Water Resources noted that the lot was within Hayden Lake Irrigation District boundaries. And then the public comments that were received, we received 3 public comments. One prior to the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and 2 comments that were attached to the memo to the City Council. Both those comments that came in were from the same residential structure. So those are the 5 standards of approval that I can leave up during public comments. And the Planning and Zoning Commission found that the request met the standards of approval and recommended to the City Council to approve the amendment request from residential suburban to single-family residential. And therefore, the City Council may find the request has or has not met the standards of approval and may either approve with conditions, or deny the request.
Questions of Donna from Mr. Roeder?
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate that. I heard when Mr. Tizuli, did I get it right? Was I close enough? Okay, I want to get it right, so thanks. He mentioned about street improvements on Reed. Now, who will pay for the street improvements on Reed? And would it be paid for by not only this development, but the other development that's north of this? And will it be on both sides of the street, go all the way to the, what street is on the south, the very south of that, the next intersection?
So it would be part of a future development, whether it's a subdivision or a site plan. And they're only required to develop the distance along Reed that they front and the half width. They have to make the street the correct half width from the center line to their property. That's the portion that they're required to construct as part of our subdivision code.
Okay, so just frontage. Excuse me.
It may include street widening. It would include street widening if necessary, curbs, swales, sidewalk.
Right, on the west side of Reed.
On the west side of
But it will end at the south end of the Pace development.
Correct.
Okay. And I want to make sure I get this right too. That due to the 0.77 acres that this parcel consists of, there's no way if the property remains as residential suburban that they could put an additional house on that property. Is that true?
And put an additional lot on that.
Additional lot. So
Correct.
this is the only way by having a zone change to R1 that they're able to accomplish their goal. Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Other comments? Ms. White?
In connection with that, so they couldn't ask for a variance of some kind and have an additional
Variances,
home on there?
and I would defer to Wanda, but variances are, there has to be something that makes this lot different than any other lot in the city. And I don't see this lot being much different than any other lot similar to it in the city. I mean, that would be a, variance would go to planning and zoning, but we would have them read the first paragraph that they'd have to show that it met it. So an example of a variance is, say you have a large mammoth boulder in your whole yard, right? And you can't meet your building setbacks because this boulder takes up, I mean, huge thing. Then you come in for a variance to allow your setback to be less of a setback than what would be required, because you can't get around this thing that may impact more than just your lot. That would be an example of variances. Is that fair?
That's correct, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
good question.
Other comments or questions from council?
I'd like to make a motion, if I may.
We haven't had the public hearing. I'm glad you're prepared.
Mr. Mayor, is this the slide you want me to leave up?
Yes, that would be fine. Thank you very much, Donna. The next part of our hearing
Yeah.
is public comment. We have received at this point no requests for public comment. If you would like to make a comment regarding this particular hearing, if you would fill out a card at the back of the room and bring it forward. As I've said in the past, I don't see anybody running for the back of the room, so I'm going to assume we don't have any public comment. Council, for your information, the 3 comments that we did receive prior to this meeting are included in your packet. Mr. Terzulli, you have an opportunity to rebut any public comment, but at this point, I don't.
I didn't see the.
You didn't hear any public comments,
I didn't
though.
see the comments that came in.
Oh.
I didn't see here, though.
Okay.
Too bad, or should I just?
Oh, man.
I can't answer that question.
I'm good. No,
You're good. No rebuttals. All right. At this point, at 6:03, I'm going to close the public hearing. And at this point, we will have council deliberations. Comments or discussion from council? Mr. DePriest.
Sure, thank you. So I can beat Matt to it, maybe. This looks like a no-brainer to me. You're basically, the context of neighborhood is what I like to look at more than anything else, and it's surrounded by very, very similar, and if they're only gonna put 2 on there, smaller lots than what they're gonna end up with, and the like, its future is single family. I like the fact that they're not gonna add another access to Reed, that apparently they're gonna go up into the northern development to exit. I think that with affordable housing and the like being the major issue, well, one of the major issues, I think it's a very good fit in this situation.
Comments from Ms. White or Mr. Satterfield?
Not at this time.
Hearing none, I would accept a motion from council regarding this proposal.
Now it's my turn, right?
Now it's your turn.
Head cold, sorry. I'd like to make a motion that we approve PZE-23-0110 Pace Zone Map Amendment, and that it does meet the 5 standards of approval. And I just love the idea that family helps family out, and that's the way it's supposed to work.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion from council? Hearing none, roll call vote, please. Abby?
Councilmember White,
Yes.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
And Council President Roder.
Yes.
Motion passes. And thank you for your service. We appreciate it. We're now moving on to item number 5 of our agenda tonight, 5A, an action item.
Jared, don't put your coat. Isn't that your coat?
So excited.
Yeah.
Usually it's water bottle.
He's leaping out of his seat.
This action item is the Edwards pre-annexation request with a zone designation of light industrial. Donna, do you have the information for us on that?
I do.
So this is the Edwards annexation request. A similar request a month ago, 6 weeks ago, something like that. The applicant is Steve Circle from Tri-State, sitting in the back. And the owners are Dan and Carrie Edwards, also sitting in the back. The property size is 35 acres, and they're proposing it to be light industrial. So just as a matter of location, Prairie Avenue on the south, go north on Hutter, and you'll see Harvest to the left, or to the left. And this is a 35 plus or minus acre piece of property that kind of goes around a single-family residence. The single-family residence is not included in this request. So again, just to get kind of the basis of the bearing, and then I would pass it over to Steve. In your memo to council, it's kind of this map. And going back to the shared tier, this is a piece of property in the shared tier, not in the exclusive tier. And so what you see in front of you are the city limits that exist today for the city of Post Falls in green, the city of Coeur d'Alene in yellow, the city of Hayden in pink, and the city of Rathdrum in blue. And as you can tell, it is adjacent to the city of Hayden. Let me just see what my next slide was. Okay.
Donna, could I ask you a question real quickly?
Yeah.
Is this parcel immediately north of the parcel that we considered for annexation last council meeting?
It is.
Thank you.
It's adjacent to it, abuts?
The butts. Correct.
Thank you.
Do you want to pick it up from here? Sure. You want this slide left up, or do you want the next one? This one? You want that one? That's great. Yeah, I'm gonna go this way.
Well, good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. It's been about 30 days and glad to see your faces again. So for the record, Steve Circle, Tri-State Consulting Engineer. I actually get to do something I've never done in my career. I get to represent Honorable Mayor Dan Edwards, who's in the audience with his wife Carrie. I don't know if you knew that, but he's the mayor of the city of Dalton Gardens. Well, the Edwards purchased the property, you'll see in my narrative, just the end of November, 30th of November. And the primary focus is they have been operating Traffic Corp since 2000, so that's almost 24 years. And the current residence, or the current location of that is off of Building Center Drive in Coeur d'Alene. They're busting out at the seams. So when this property came available, they reached out to me, we walked over the site, and it seemed to be logical that it's something that we should look at doing. And so we met with Donna and staff a couple Fridays ago, and then here we are tonight for your consideration for annexation. Their current operations, they want to relocate and build on the west third of the lot with a small office, I've stated in my narrative, and some storage buildings for some of their equipment, their signs and all that stuff, where right now they're kind of stacked on top of each other. And so as we met a month ago, with the church property, same kind of things apply, where's sewer, where's water. We met with city staff and we talked about that. We talked about the Hutter Interceptor bypass road. As you can see, we're less impacted on this parcel here. And so haven't done any initial planning yet, but just scratching on the paper, this westerly 10 or 11 acres would be their headquarters for what they want to do and for storage on with their equipment for their business. They envision, one, maybe two outbuildings, and which is doable. Speaking with David Callahan, planning director, we could do that as a home-based business, but just from being here a month ago, we met with city staff, and it makes more sense to consider coming into the city. And then they also have potentially, for full transparency, maybe bringing something in that would complement light industrial, maybe it's storage units or something like that. Because in this immediate area, there really isn't any. So that's something they would look at doing. But right now, we want to see if we can change the color of the map and consider annexation into the city. So Hayden Lake Irrigation District does serve the existing single-family home. And I do know that they will serve this area. On a septic standpoint, it's not nearly as invasive over the aquifer, because it would probably just be a standard septic system. And we did talk with city staff about at some point in time when sewer is available, then that could be something that we worked out in the annexation and moving forward as far as being able to hook up. Harvest is a well-developed highway district road. So assuming you're granting tonight for consideration, we would meet with the highway district for main access.
Of Hutter, I believe, did I misunderstand that? And your approach would be from Harvest and then over to Hutter?
Yeah,
And
main
no,
approach would be on Harvest
Okay.
with coming on.
would be on Harvest. Okay, thank you.
So Paul, you would basically turn off of Hutter onto Harvest and then enter the complex as opposed to turning on Hutter into the complex.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Other questions, Ms. White?
Yes, you were talking about developing the back 11 acres as a headquarters, so the rest of the acreage would be used for what?
For something similar with the light industrial zoning, which we're requesting, could be storage units, something that will help service the debt of the property. Something that fits the need in the area, which it really isn't determined at this point, but that's why we chose light industrial.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Roder?
Yes, can you help me, well, let's use that map on the left-hand side and tell me what are the, is purple, what's the zoning in the purple currently?
Mixed use.
Currently?
That's the future line.
That's your
That's
future.
for future land use.
It's your future land use.
Oh, okay, because
mixed use.
but with the county, what is it zoned?
Oh, it's agriculture.
So there'd be converting ag land into industrial land as
That is
well,
correct.
even though that's not what we're talking about tonight. And then to the east of the property, the purple is the city of Hayden, and what is that zone?
Future is mixed use,
The current?
single family residential. Which would be this yellow, right?
Oh, that would be in yellow.
Yep, that's your
Single family
existing zone
residence. Okay.
map right there.
And then down at the northeast corner where you're pointing, the red is what?
Commercial,
Within the city of Hayden.
that is correct.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Other questions of Mr. Circle?
Oh, yeah. And I just want to reiterate, I did mention a little bit, we can build in the county as current zoning for what we'd want to do, but we're here for your consideration on annexing into the city.
Ms. White?
Yes, I was wondering, what would you say the primary benefits of being in the city would be to your company?
Future growth and being a part of the city. But I would probably answer those two.
Can I add tax revenue?
Well, yeah, you can. For you guys, definitely.
Well, I think that's that'd be a benefit.
Yep,
And then also being
That's
able
saved in the
to
map.
hook into the sewer system in the future.
yep.
Okay.
I don't want to steal Councilman Dupree's words, but this one would be a no-brainer, I think, as previous hearing, because there's not a lot of impact on services for what they want to do.
Okay, thank you.
And council will have an opportunity to make deliberations here in just a moment. But thank you, Mr. Circle.
Yeah,
Oh, I'm sorry, do you have another question?
Yeah, just your last statement, you said that the impact on services would be small.
Yeah,
And how do we know that when you don't know how the 2/3 of the property will be developed?
well, annexing in is one step, but then we'd have to come forth with a development plan to be the next step. And by being upfront when transparent with you, what we'd want to do, storage units, it doesn't have a huge tax on water and sewer. And then with the development they want to do to relocate their storage facilities there for their equipment, is pretty low impact versus high density single family. That's really what I meant.
Right, but the 2/3 that are gonna be undeveloped, not right away, you said something, you didn't know what that was going to be. So there's a possibility that it could be something other than storage units.
Well, whatever is complemented into the light industrial, which will not be multifamily or higher density. So that's why I guess I made that comment.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Circle.
Thank you.
So I'm just kind of cruising through the memo that was in your packet. So on the left-hand side is again that future land use map that shows the city kind of sees potentially that could develop in this neck of the woods in the shared tier, should that annex into the city. And on the right-hand side is the existing zone map showing single-family residential to the east of Hutter, and the commercial on the corner, which is EMC builders, building materials that are down there on that corner. So I just wanted to kind of blow this picture up. It was in your staff memo, just to kind of show the roadways as they kind of are proposed to occur. Harvest Road is a public road, and it is in Post Falls Highway District's jurisdiction. And the proposed Hutter footprint is the yellow area. That's the proposed Hutter footprint. And then this map is taken from a Kootenai County web map that shows the Hutter footprint. That 100-foot buffer is part of their buffer, not reflective of our footprint that we show on all of our maps. So just want to clarify that. So it's pretty much the yellow area as the current Hutter footprint lies from planning documents that would be impactful. So on the right-hand side, when on the east side of Hutter, when those properties annexed in their annexation agreement, it identifies the Hutter corridor, and it identifies that the areas within that Hutter corridor setback at the known time at that point in time would be a no-build area until the determination of what was happening with Hutter was determined. So that same potential kind of language would be envisioned to occur should this move forward through annexation to preserve that corridor. If the Hutter corridor wouldn't happen, it would have to be built in conformance with the typical section of the city of Hayden for Hutter. And as such, at time of annexation, there could potentially be some dedication of right-of-way and granting of utility easements in accordance with the city's transportation plan. That could happen. So financial impact to the city, again, you've got those one-time fees at the time of development. And so you have square footage calculations according to the adopted fee schedule for impact fees for the buildings that would be constructed. And then a transportation impact analysis may be required, and any extraordinary impacts that result from that could be mitigated through construction or would be fees associated. And then sewer infrastructure funding required as part of any future sewer connection could be negotiated in that annexation agreement as well. And then unlike the last one that we looked at, they would have taxable value to the city based on whatever structures existed during that and land value at the time of assessment each year. So that would change over time. So the staff recommended conditions to review the annexation. So these would be things that would come in at the same time as the annexation request. Would be will serve letters from the water and sewer. And sewer in this case would be Panhandle Health District to show how they're going to meet that temporary sewer issue for that, as well as how which basin they fit in for the city. Panhandle Health District requirements related to that temporary sewer until a permanent sewer solution is determined. That transportation impact analysis to be reviewed by both the City of Hayden and Post Falls Highway District. And then the sewer analysis to determine potential mitigation and or funding responsibilities.
So
we as a council have options. Comments and questions from council members?
Is there public input on this?
No.
Donna, are we in deliberations now?
I believe with that slide, we are in deliberations.
Deliberation.
Mr. DePriest.
Thank you.
Unless you have questions for me.
No, that was, wasn't sure where we were. Yeah, there's a number of things going on, at least as far as I can see with this. Can you put up the maps that you had up there? That one there is good. Annexation and the shared tier and all that. Who's gonna get it first? Is it gonna be Rathdrum, Post Falls? I mean, I think there's I don't know, there's a race to some degree maybe for that little area in there. And if I'm not mistaken, we can, as part of the annexation agreement, we can limit it to light industrial, correct? We can only,
Requesting is light industrial.
but it can only be light industrial then. They can't do anything else but. And that allows us, for lack of a better word, control of what happens to that land as we do move that direction, because it could easily become so many different things in the future. But the thing is, we talk about the tax burden on the citizens and the residential versus commercial and business imbalance that I think we have right now. The more business and commercial tax revenue that we can facilitate, the better it is for the residential taxpayers. I think that we seriously want to consider this opportunity for those reasons that I just stated.
Thank you, Mr. Priest. Other comments or questions? Ms. White?
Donna, could you go back to the conditions page? Thank you. So can you tell me more about the sewer analysis that would be done?
Wish Rob was here because that was his comment. So, the basin that this property lands in is a yet-to-be-constructed sewer basin. So in various agreements that we have, we put in language that identifies that, like if a local improvement district is formed to create the infrastructure, that they wouldn't be opposed to being part of the local improvement district. Challenge, they could disagree with the end cost, but they couldn't not be a part of the LID. That's right. Is that right? Is that what I'm heading for?
It would be evaluated at the time of annexation and that public hearing process to determine what appropriate provisions and conditions need to be put into the annexation agreement as they come into the city, because we recognize that at the time of annexation, it's not ripe for build out completely under all of our services yet. So this is just addressing that there would be conditions in the annexation agreement related to sewer that would be analyzed at the time of application, the annexation application and public hearing process. Because remember, your decision point tonight is only whether or not you support the applicant moving forward with an actual annexation application to come through the planning and zoning and public hearing process.
So it's like the property south right now. They're saying,
Correct.
okay, move
It's the same
forward.
process
This
you
isn't
did
a
before.
decision as to, all right, yeah.
That's correct.
Other comments or questions? Hearing none, I would appreciate a motion from council regarding the request to begin the annexation process on this particular property. Sure. Mr. DePriest.
Sure. I would motion to approve action item PZE 23-0155 Edwards pre-annexation request with a zone designation of light industrial.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion or comments? Go ahead, Matt. Mr. Roder.
Mr. Matt.
Mr. Matt.
Thank you. I vacillated on this and I'll tell you why. I'm looking at page 10 of our comp plan. Whoops, wait a minute. No, excuse me, page 8. And it's element number on goals, it's number 4. It says the city of Hayden should encourage the development of land within the corporate limits of Hayden prior to annexation of adjacent areas. And where I struggle with that is that, you know, we're trying to catch up with our roads and trying to catch up with the traffic and the growth that we have, whatever level that is right now. And we're having a difficult time doing that. So I'm concerned about taking in more land within the city. And one of the goals says that, you know, that we should encourage development within the city first. And that's kind of where I'm at right now is if I mean, is I'm more leaning towards the encouragement of developing land within the city than taking on more annex land into the city. So that's kind of where I'm coming from right now.
Mr. Priest?
Yeah, again, to rebut it, and it sounds like, and it would make sense, it's going to happen either way. Either we're going to do it or the county's going to give it to them to do it. So whatever effect is going to happen there is going to happen. And I admit it, my primary issue here, and I've talked about it for a long time, is the tax issue. If it's going to be there anyway, okay, it's going to happen. And the city of Hayden can benefit from the tax that will, to whatever degree, shift from the residential property owner. That's my main reason for feeling that this is probably best a good idea for the city, as well as, like I said, well, it's going to happen anyway, but it could turn into all kinds of different things down the road. And I think it gives us an opportunity to, let's see, influence that, control it, whatever you want to say. So but the tax benefit, I think, is my main.
Other further comments? Mr. Satterfield?
Just to add what Councilmember DePriest just said is eventual sewer. I think, you know, I want to see the aquifer protected as much as possible. To me, this is another way because eventually there will be sewer out there, but it's not going to be a lot of houses. So you're not going to have a huge impact on the treatment facility or the aquifer in general. And as pointed out, if the county does it, we have no control over that. You're going to have a septic tank out there or possibly several of them that might affect the aquifer. So thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any further?
Yes.
Ms. White?
Yes, I was just thinking that I would really like a little more time to think on this. Could we delay this to the next meeting? Because in the annexation procedures, it says we could require the completion of relevant studies before allowing the annexation proposal to go forward. And I would like to explore more what kind of studies we would like to have done. As Councilmember Satterfield just brought up, we have the aquifer to consider and other things like that. I would just like to research this just a little more to find out what kind of studies would help us in making a decision to move forward.
I believe the motion in front of council right now is to approve or not approve. We're past the point of that.
You need to take
And-
a
I'm sorry.
vote on the motion that's pending first.
And Ms. White, a decision in favor of allowing this to proceed is not to agree, it's not to make a final decision on annexation. It is simply to continue the process, which may address the study questions that you have.
When would the study questions come up?
That's in the next phase. Other comments or questions?
Thank you. I'd like to reiterate, you know, my concern is, at a point in time, we need to keep our boundary where it is. And that's what I'm concerned about. And I know there's tax implications, but it's just another parcel. Well, this is 30 some acres, it's a pretty good sized parcel. So I just want to make it clear that at some point, and I think we're at that point where I am not a fan of annexing more land into the city of Hayden.
Okay. Other comments? Roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember White,
No.
Council President Roder,
No.
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez.
Yes.
And Mayor Purcell.
Because we approved exactly this same request on the property immediately adjacent to this 30 days ago, and because this property is going to be developed the way it's being proposed, even if we don't approve this, and that if we don't approve this, we have septic systems rather than sewage systems in the future, my vote is yes. Motion passes. The next item that we have here tonight is the item 5B, the Metro Car Wash Sewer Capitalization Fee Agreement. Let's see. Donna, are you presenting that, or Alan, are you?
I can speak. Where am I putting this?
Make sure it's not red.
There you go.
Okay. I want to make sure that I don't get in trouble from the wizard behind the screen over there. The Metro Car Wash is a development in the city up there by the Lancaster Market. They've come to the city with, when we're developing this, we had ideas on how much water usage that has resurfaced, and we're looking at it. We looked at it again. It has pretty big implications on the project itself from a cost standpoint. And so the hopes were that I believe that where we're at is they had talked about the potential of having an agreement to pay that money over a period of time instead of up one lump sum up front. And so I think that's the agreement that's before the council, and I believe that they're here to speak if the council has questions or would like to hear from them.
They are here to speak. Mr. Bill Mervin. Mr. Mervin is with Metro Express, and he has an opportunity here to explain their position on this.
You're reading my bad handwriting. It's Bill Martin, sorry.
I apologize, Mr. Barton. You're right.
Probably scribbled. First of all, it's off the script. I wanted to say my personal thanks to the city of Hayden for recognizing and speaking for veterans. As a Vietnam veteran, I've not always enjoyed that kind of support. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. My name is William Martin. I reside in Eagle, Idaho, and I'm the owner of Metro Express Car Wash. Mr. Mayor and members of the council and staff, my topic is the proposed sewer, impact cap fee agreement that was drafted by the city attorney. When we first came to the city to apply for the application, we want Metro Express Car Washes in Coeur d'Alene, Post Falls, we're in Spokane, and we're based in Boise, but we operate, our biggest units are up here. We also operate in the Boise area. And we really wanted to expand into the Hayden market. We saw that as an opportunity for growth and also to protect our flank, let's call it. And so we knew that this early movement into Hayden was going to be a slower development because of density and commercial around the site. We first had a site on Dakota and US 95, which we liked, but it was a very complicated site and difficult to develop. So we moved north. That property is under contract now with Goodwill, so we'll probably be selling that. But when we applied, we looked at the the ordinances for the city, which indicated that, as I read it, and by the way, we have copies of the ordinances. I can have my associate here pass them out, but the ordinance called for us to make an estimate of usage of water, and which would impact sewer fees. And then 1 year later, as the ordinance, as I read the ordinance, 1 year later, the city would evaluate that actual usage based on what was drawn out of the system, and then apply additional fees as necessary, because it was an estimate. I should say that it's really impossible for us to know. There's two variables here that are very difficult to know. One is exactly how much water per vehicle we're going to use. We have an idea based on other facilities, but the state-of-the-art system that we're building here in Hayden is much improved and much different. So we're adding some additional, in fact, we spent about $150,000 additional to put that technology in. So we really don't know, number one, exactly how much water per vehicle. Number two, we don't have any idea how many vehicles we're going to wash or how many customers we're going to serve. And we used an estimate when we came and met with Donna and Alan, that based on the traffic study that was done by a third party, that it might be as many as 445 vehicles a day. However, I was flawed in thinking that that was we're not going to start off with any numbers near that. It's going to be much slower ramping up. And it could take, our typical ramp up could run from 12 to 36 months. So the staff questioned our estimate based on looking at other uses in Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls. And that's understandable because the usage there, the volume there is quite a bit higher than what we anticipate in Hayden. So that raised a question in their mind. We met with them, we talked about that, and we submitted a proposal. We used that 445 cars a day, which I'll get back to that in a minute. And we then took our actual usage, what we're doing now, the improvements we've made, and then we submitted a request and a study that had been done by an independent agency to show that about 6.3 gallons of the water that we use to wash a car dissipates in either evaporation or carry-off. It never gets back to the sewer system, similar to water that's used for irrigation. It goes into the soil, or it's evaporated. So our argument was that we suggested that the total volume be reduced by that much. That wasn't accepted by staff. I understand it because it's somewhat of an esoteric idea that probably hasn't been used before, but it has been a study that's been done. It is real. So what we're proposing, according to the ordinance, is that we have paid $182,000 preliminary fee based on an estimate, which we know is not correct. We don't know if it's high or low. It's probably low, likely low, but we don't know what the real number is. And based on the ordinance, we would come back, the city would come back 1 year after we open and look at the actual usage and assess us the additional fee, which this is, by the way, we are not arguing or debating the fee. We fully expect to pay the fee. Our problem is that it's being assessed ahead of time when none of us know exactly what the demand is going to be on the sewer system. One thing I would also like to say is that studies have been done in our industry. Cars that are washed at home in the driveway typically use 80 to 100 gallons of water to wash a car. That water does not get treated. It goes right into the aquifer or to the Spokane River. Everything we use, we pre-treat before we send it out to the city sewer system. It leaves our property between 6.5 and 7.5 pH, which is essentially neutral. Has very few solids. We spend an enormous amount of money pumping the solids out and removing them. So the effluent that we send to the city sewer has been pre-treated. It's in pretty good shape. So what we would propose is that there is a agreement that the city attorney has prepared, and we would propose that the council reject that agreement or amend it to remove things like a surety bond, which are not called for in the ordinance, legal fees, which are not called for in the ordinance, and provide, in accordance with the ordinance, 6 equal payments 1 year after we're open to bring up that number, to pay the correct amount to the city. We are ready to open today. We've had all of our inspections, and I think we've passed everything in flying colors. We're excited about being in Hayden. We're going to pay taxes, probably a lot of taxes. We've spent several $1 million to build this facility. And we're eager to serve. We're going to create about $500,000 a year in payroll inside the city. And we're eager to serve the good citizens of Hayden. So we need to get open. If we don't open, it'll cost us about $4,500 a day right now, starting about now, not to be able to open in terms of actual cost, embedded cost, and lost revenue. So that's our request.
Ladies and gentlemen of council, it sounds like from what Mr. Martin said, there is significant distance between where we are on the agreement and where they are on the agreement. I suggest that a motion from council to postpone a decision on this until our city staffs and metro staffs can get together.
Can I ask a couple questions?
Me too.
Certainly, Mr. DePriest.
Couple things here. Where are you in Coeur d'Alene? What's the address?
3131 Sherry Lane in Coeur d'Alene.
So you're over on the east side, over there, Cherry Lane?
Near Neater and US 95.
Yeah, okay, I got you. Okay, I know where you're at now. It talks about installing a flow meter to quantify. Are you going to install a flow meter?
We are. We're installing it, which is, we've never done this before, but we are installing a discharge meter, which will accurately, well, we've never done it, so I don't know. I don't want to suggest how accurate it is. I don't know. But we're told it will accurately measure the discharge into the sewer.
And I don't know if we have anybody, staff here. It's up on Lancaster and what?
By the
It's near Lancaster 95.
So Lancaster 95. That will affect sewer coming out of Hayden Canyon, correct?
It is H6 basin area.
Is there any studies, evaluations, whatever, of the when Hayden Canyon's built out, and along with, we have something like this, what effect will it have regarding the capacity of the sewer up there?
That's not the decision point for today.
Okay.
Our decision point today is to approve this agreement between the city and Metro, or to not approve, or to.
I did have a question.
Donna has a question.
Donna, what's your question?
So I don't know how much of the code you got in front of you that he passed out, but 8824, which is the cap fee code in B. So part of the reason that we're here is that when you issue a building permit and you issue a connection to the city sewer, you charge a capitalization fee based on your best guess of how much water is going to go down the pipes.
Wastewater.
Thank you.
Wastewater.
Help me out, Helen. I need all the help I can get. Yeah. So when you find out that, or you believe you found out, when you recognize that this particular use uses in other locations, uses sizably more, and I understand they've done lots of enhancements to this, so we don't have good data, as good as we would like it to be. That's why the flow meter makes sense. We still have to get a sewer cap fee that makes sense for the amount of capacity that they're using. So I'm having a hard time figuring out how I could issue a building permit, a CO, a certificate of occupancy, for them to run their business if in fact they're utilizing more capacity than the 105 WUs that they paid for with their building permit. With, by their numbers alone, they're using 400 WUs. That's a 295 WU difference. So this agreement effectively
And the
required-
WU is a wastewater unit.
wastewater unit, yeah. So this, which is like, what do we say, like 50 plus or minus 40, 400, whatever, ERs.
Oh. Yeah, it's around 50.
So I'm having a hard time figuring out how they've met the requirements. So then in this code section, in the 824B, it says the city, let's see, where is it? When the initial flow factors have been underestimated, that would be what the 105 was, or the use of the property has changed, which it hasn't, it's been allowed to be metro, the city may charge the user additional capitalization fees for, and this is where he comes from, demonstrated usage of the system beyond that estimated at the time of connection. So I don't think that staff doesn't believe that the initial estimate should go a full year to reconcile, and it doesn't say it has to in that piece. It does say that it will be reviewed and monitored on an annual basis and adjust based on actual flows. So I think part of their concern in entering into this agreement is that if at the end of a year from now, if their flow meter shows that they're using less than what this agreement is requiring them to pay, and the reason it was broken up into 12 monthly installments, just as an FYI, was to try to make that number a little more palatable than 6 equal installments. I don't care if it's 6 or 12 or whatever. Is they want to ensure that if they're using sizably less than what's in this agreement, that they could get refunded that capacity that they purchased because we guessed wrong. Is that fair?
Yes, if I could just make one
So I'm trying to, really quick, so I'm trying to figure out if we don't approve this agreement, or if we don't approve some rendition of this agreement, I need direction from council that if I don't enter into this agreement, that I can issue them a CO or I can't issue them a CO. I need direction. Yes, that's where I'm going.
That is correct, and go ahead, and then I have a comment in addition to that.
Is that all right?
When we met with staff, I think, I'm not sure if it was Donna or Alan, said it's very difficult to get that money back from the sewer district. That was, both of us heard that comment. From the, raised a concern also.
Well, to get it back from the sewer, from Harbs, it's a vote. I don't think it's not a,
We don't have
we
jurisdiction.
don't have jurisdiction.
We don't have jurisdictional decision-making for HARPs. So
I will say this. It doesn't do them good to sell capacity that's not being used. Okay, that's not a good business decision, even though they're not a business. Still, it makes no, it doesn't add value.
It wouldn't be good for us to pay for capacity we're not using either.
Yeah, correct. So.
which is why this agreement was intended to be a hybrid approach to that, to say, you don't have a solid number according to the applicant. So they said 105, research showed otherwise. Everybody stumbled to 400 from my understanding. And the calculated amount on that 400,000 is, or on that 400 WUs is 346,800. So this was just a mechanism to say, let's get you your CO by paying half up front, and then there can be payments on the remaining 50% instead of the entirety of the cap fee calculation being required up front as a condition previous to the CO.
Mr. Priest.
So am I here? Go ahead if you have something more.
Well, the only thing I was going to say, and I appreciate Mr. Martin being here, but this is the first I've heard any concern with this agreement. So we're operating a little out of,
I got it from my attorney today, so I apologize for the late.
so there you go.
Okay, so am I hearing and understanding this correctly? We're trying to get them the CO so they can get up and running?
Yes.
So that they could not lose 45, how much a day?
4,500 to $5,000.
Okay, so they want to get up and running, okay, and we want to help them get up and running as best we can, but we have to protect all interests.
That's correct.
Not reliability, but accuracy as we move through the year, I guess. Mr. Mayor, what did you feel we needed if we postponed it to learn that we don't know?
Well, to Donna's point and to Fonda's point, this seems to me to be a very reasonable opportunity to have them pay half now, half later, with no penalties. And if it's too much at the end of the period, they have the opportunity to get their money back. If it's more than that, well, they'll have more money to pay. But they have a flow meter that will be installed that will tell them exactly what they need to, what they need to do there.
So if we approve this, are they bound, or do they have the opportunity to say, well, no, we don't, we want to wait, or whatever their reaction would be if we said, no, we want to stick with this and move forward on this basis?
We could approve the agreement and they could refuse to execute it, at which point it's just going to hold up their certificate of occupancy until that's completed.
Okay, thank you.
So
other comments or questions? Mr. Martin?
I go back to the provision, all due respect to the city attorney, as we read the ordinance, there's no provision for a surety bond. There's no provision for legal fees to be paid by us. And so that was an exception that.
So the provision for attorney's fees is allowable by Idaho law because we're entering into a contract with you to basically operate in deviation from code, which would have required you to pay the entirety of the fee up front. The surety bond is because if we don't require a surety bond, then we have no security on getting paid, and it's going to be very uncomfortable if the only enforcement mechanism that we have is to shut your water off. That is not where anybody wants to go. So the posting of the surety bond is to give some security to the payment of the additional 50% of the funds.
But that's not in the ordinance.
It's in our ordinance requiring performance of all obligations related to an application. So this is akin to a specific performance bond when you haven't finished all of your obligations that you are required to do in order to get your certificate of occupancy. Let's see, you hadn't finished something on the ground. We would require, and that is in code, we would require a performance bond to make sure that got done.
So it feels like an excessive burden to have to pay the fees up front, which we're not certain of the actual usage, have to pay a surety bond, and then if there's a problem and we need to litigate to get our overage back, we'll have to pay the legal fees for the city as well. It just doesn't quite seem equitable.
It doesn't say you pay the legal fees if you have to litigate to get your money back.
That's a collection.
Yeah. Mr. Roeder?
Yeah. Thank you for being here. I do wash my truck, not enough. My wife tells me you need to wash it more often.
I do wash my car there too.
At Metro. But there's no conflict of
Wash it every
interest.
day if you like.
So anyway, I would like to see some information from you, and I think that you could obtain this pretty easily, because you have one in Post Falls and Highway 41, correct? And then you have the one on 95. And I believe that both Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene have a sewer treatment system that they treat your wastewater. I would like to see what your bills are and what volume that you are actually discharging from there. And I would also like to see, because Coeur d'Alene has their own water department, they can say how much water goes into that facility. And Post Falls may have the same. I'm not sure if they have their own water department. But what that would do is that would kind of get us closer to the number that we can anticipate. Because that's what we're talking about. We don't know what the number is. You don't know, and we don't know. But if we could come to the agreement with some more data, with those numbers, I feel more comfortable with.
So all due respect, Councilman, it's apples and oranges. The Coeur d'Alene site has been there for 7 years. It's a very busy site. The Post Falls site also is a great location. This site is what we would refer to in our industry as pretty green. Now, we think it's going to be great in the future, but we do not think, and that's what started this, because the folks at the Public Works went and gathered that information, and they saw a huge disconnect, and I appreciate that.
So you already
I
kind
want
of
to be
gathered.
clear that
The city has already done
Both of
exactly
those?
what you're
Yes.
talking about.
Oh, I'd like
All
to
of
see that.
Well,
I mean, if
that's actually the result of what we have in front of us.
That's how
That's how
the
we-
discussion went from them asking for 105 woos based on their data to it going up to 400 based on the public records requests and data that Donna gathered from Post Falls and Coeur d'Alene to say the usage was significantly higher at those two sites than what they had applied for. And they all discussed it, and level heads prevailed on the 400 for now, but it was based on the actual usage at those two sites.
And that's real data.
That's
the kind of
correct.
stuff that I like to see and hear to make a decision. And you're saying it's a green site. You don't know, correct?
we hope it does well, but there's no retail around it. It doesn't have the density. We know we're early. But to the attorney's comments, I just wanted to say that there were a couple of changes. We did meet with the folks. They were very gracious, and we talked through it, and I had done some research. Two things are different. They disallowed our evaporation carryoff, which is a 25%, 26% impact on usage. Understand why they did it, but we still think it's valid. That's number one. Number two, the volume of business. And we used, and I think this was a mistake on our part, we actually used the traffic study that was done that says there'll be 445 cars a day. Well, I think there will at some point, but we're not going to start out anywhere near that. So the math, and it was my math that I brought to the city, so I will accept that I was wrong in doing that. Again, I'm not disputing paying the fees, it's just a timing thing for us. We would like to follow the ordinance and pay it 1 year out when we have a real number. And the 182 we've already paid.
What portion of the fee are you wanting to pay 1 year out? I guess I'm not understanding that.
The difference between what we've paid now and what the actual usage is.
So you only want to pay the 182, which is based on the 105 woos right now.
That's, yeah, that was based on when we looked at the ordinance, it said we make an estimate, we pay it, 1 year out, we adjust it.
Mr. Mayor, can I ask
Ms.
one
White.
question? Is this located in the urban renewal district up there in Lancaster?
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Next to
It is,
Yes, it
yes.
is.
Fine Furniture?
Yes,
Okay,
it is.
all right,
Yeah, there's a furniture store, I believe, supposed to go next door.
okay, thank you.
Councilmember,
I just want to, we're happy to write a check and pay more fees. And we'll do it tomorrow. But to go from 182,000 to 700,000 is almost unmanageable for us.
or you may have gotten a really good deal on the other places that you've put your businesses.
In all due respect, I've been in this business 50 years. I've built about 50 car washes. I've never had a fee even close to this. So, but that's neither here nor there.
One more question. Are you going to have any for PFAS chemicals going through your plant? PFAS. Forever chemicals?
Oh, no. Everything we use is biodegradable. As I said, it leaves our property at about a neutral pH and we pre-treat it prior to discharge, so no. In fact, we received an award from the city of Meridian, Idaho, for the quality of our discharge water several years ago, and we worked very hard. I mean, look, it's a cost to bring the water in, it's a cost to send it out, so we want to keep it as manageable as we can, so it's works for us.
Council members, in an effort to move this along and move on to other business, I can tell you from the city side that this has been heavily researched, based on previous information. I certainly understand where Mr. Martin feels that evaporation hasn't been taken into account, but this is well researched. And we've had 3 meetings with the applicant prior to this where there have been no issues expressed on this until tonight. So I'm going to not suggest that we put this in the back, but I'm going to ask council for a motion to approve this fee agreement as written. Mr. DeVries?
Yeah, from all the discussion we've had, and it appears as though it has been heavily researched and the like. And I think we're at a position, and I brought it up a little bit earlier, where the applicant wants to get up and running, and we want to help them get up and running. And I believe this agreement will do it. And if we are to approve it, it will be up to the applicant then to decide whether they want to act on the approval and get up and running or not. I would assume so I'm going to motion that we do go ahead and approve the Metro Car Wash Sewer Capitalization Fee Agreement.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there further discussion from council? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Councilmember Satterfield?
Yes.
Councilmember White?
No.
Council President Roder?
Yes.
Councilmember DePreez?
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you,
Mr.
ladies and
Martin.
gentlemen.
We
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Item C, we have a resolution, council needs to make a resolution here adopting the 2024 meeting calendar. And our city clerk, Ms. Sanchez, has some information for you about that, some items you need to decide.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. Before you for consideration is a resolution to adopt the 2024 meeting calendar for the regularly scheduled meetings of the city commissions and city council. All commissions have reviewed the calendar and any requested changes have been made. I'd like to call your attention to a few dates that may conflict with other, for instance, the August 27th regular meeting of the city council is also an election day. So should there be an election, city council chambers are used as a polling place. So we would be unable to meet for a council meeting in this room if there is an election that day. Also, May 28th is the day after Memorial Day. November 26th is the Tuesday prior to Thanksgiving, and December 24th is Christmas Eve, and all 3 of those are regularly scheduled council meetings. So I ask that you review those dates and review the calendar and make any changes necessary.
Let's approach these one at a time. Council, on August 27th, Election Day, would council object to moving the council meeting to August 28th, the Wednesday? Would that work for council members? Understanding it's all conceptual at this time.
Works for me.
Yeah, thank you. Satterfield, I appreciate that.
Isn't that usually about the time we're working on budgets?
Yes.
And
The budget it's typically approved either the last meeting in August or the first meeting in August.
So is council, go ahead.
An option, council, I'm
Yes.
sorry, Mayor.
No.
An option would be to, if the election does occur on that day, I can bring that forward at the time and council can cancel or make changes to that day at that time.
Because that may not be an election.
It may not be, yeah, I believe it's one of the special election days.
Council, would you prefer to leave it on the 27th then? And if we do have an election, we consider at that point moving it?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, we'll leave that one. Good, thank you. May 28th, the day after Memorial Day. That is a Tuesday following a 3-day weekend, but that is a business week. Council all right with leaving that where it is?
Yeah.
Fine with me.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, good. November 26th, the Tuesday prior to Thanksgiving, there would still be 2 days before before Thanksgiving, or one full day before Thanksgiving at that point. Council all right with meeting on the 26th? Ms.
Yep.
White?
Yep.
I would like to ask that we remove that, number one. It does fall into a holiday season where people may be traveling, and also for the citizens who keep up on what we do, it would be hard for them to come during a holiday week as well. So I would ask to cancel that one.
Other council members input?
It's really difficult if you cancel both, you go down to one meeting in both November and one meeting in December, not just for the planning department.
That's a good point, because we are.
Move it a week
I'm
prior.
sure we're all in agreement that December 24th is going to be gone.
Move it to the 19th then?
Is that the
So-
Tuesday prior?
Yes, so we would have a meeting on the 12th and the 19th. Councilman, Mr. Priest?
Yeah, a lot of this, we don't know what's going to be happening a year from now, and it may be a slow period. What's so, come on.
Never the end of the year.
Come on. Again, we'll know in October roughly what it's going to look like in the next month. And I think that might be a time where we say, hey, here's the deal, here's what's happening, here's potential this and that. What's the availability? But I think that cancel it right now, because again, like say one meeting in November, and then 24th, I'm pretty sure is going to be gone. And then one meeting in December. I think there are too many unknowns right now, just for me at least, to make a decision right now on something like that.
Suggestions for Mr. Satterfield or Mr. Schroeder?
Thank you. I'm fine with 26th.
Mr. Satterfield? We'll leave it for the 26th, and then we will reevaluate it prior to that. Okay, sounds good. And December 24th, we all agree on that, I assume.
I'm not going to be here.
Okay, good. And we gone. All right, excellent. Does that give you the information you need, Ms. Sanchez?
Yeah, but the council would like to make a motion.
Could the council make a motion regarding the acceptance of the calendar, given the modifications that we just made?
I can do that.
Ms. White?
I move that we accept the 2024 meeting calendar with the exception of removing December 24th.
Okay. Second?
Second.
Second. Further discussion? Roll call vote, please. Abby?
Councilmember Satterfield,
Yes.
Council President Roder,
Yes.
Councilmember DePriest.
Yes.
And Councilmember White.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes. Item 5D, a resolution declaring surplus property. Mr. Soderling, could you give us brief information on that, please?
The vehicle in question has been recovered and totaled. To get the salvage value of the vehicle, we have to transfer the title to the insurance company. To transfer the title, we need to declare it as surplus. So that's basically otherwise we end up with the vehicle and we don't get the surplus value or the salvage value. We'd have to deal with the car instead of the dollars.
All right, thank you. Any comments or questions from council? May I have a motion regarding surplusing this particular vehicle? Mr. DePriest?
I would motion that we approve the resolution declaring surplus property for the 2008 Ford Escape.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
We have a second. Other discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Abby.
Council President Roder.
Yes.
Councilmember White. Councilmember Satterfield.
Yes.
And Councilmember
Yes.
DePriest.
Okay, motion passes. I now have the opportunity to introduce to you Lisa Ailport, who is our new city administrator, has been on the job a week plus now. And Lisa, do you have a city administrator's report for us?
I do, and I will endeavor, by the way, thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve. I look forward to my role here with the city. As I move into these reports with the council, my attempt, it will be to front load council with what those report items will be, and then to provide an update here if anything that changed since I provided that report. So you'll see I've provided it in writing, and that's for the benefit of council to review and have questions, as well as any member of the public that maybe wants to see those areas which council would discuss with myself. But since the report's been provided to you, I just wanted to give council an update that And I want to recognize Donna and some of her work that she's done in receiving the Idaho Heritage Trust grant, so for the Stoddard Park. So that came in the amount of $10,000. So thank you for taking the effort there. One of the bigger areas that we've been working on is meeting with the prosecutor, city attorney, as well as the sheriff's office regarding process and directions as it relates to our misdemeanors and citations. So that'll take some evolution and some iterations as we move towards really a directive on how to implement that for both parties, both the city attorney as well as the prosecutor. So as far as the meetings that I've attended over the course of my time here at the city so far, the Harbs Sewer Board meeting was last Friday and that went well. Council workshop for the urban renewal expansion. Tomorrow I'll be meeting, I'll be attending, I believe, with the mayor or on the airport advisory meeting. I've been invited to the North Idaho Builders and Contractors Association's January meeting. They're doing a luncheon, and then on the 15th, I will be meeting with the mayor-elect and the council-elect with the clerk about the onboarding process. So with that, I'd stand for any questions if council should have any.
Questions? Okay, thank you very much, Lisa. Appreciate that. Moving on to any roundtable discussion, any member of council have anything, Ms. White?
Yeah, I just had one correction to the December 2023 and 2024 calendar. The airport advisory board meeting is at 5 o'clock, not 5:30. That's on the 13th of December.
That's correct, and we were aware of the correct time.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Priest?
It's, a question is to regards, I know that Abby sent out an email on the joint workshop. Was there any decision made on that, or as to if that's going to be held?
Rescheduling the joint planning and zoning city council workshop.
I don't believe we have a quorum of council members that's available for either date.
18th.
For
And-
either date?
For either date, and
We have a quorum of planning and zoning commissioners. I've got, here. They do not have available, I cannot get to a quorum through the rest of December.
Okay. Well, we will try to schedule this as soon as possible. Mr. Roder?
Thank you. I want to thank Susie and Public Works for a great Christmas parade, the lights. What I loved about it is the smiling faces on the kids and the parents. It was really one of the funnest times that I've had, and at an event that the city put on, and I forgot who I spoke to, but somebody from the Public Works Department said they were up at 4 in the morning, and by the time I talked to them, it was like 6:30, and so they put a long day in. And I just want to thank whoever participated to put that program together and make it all work. I just thank you, and I know the residents really enjoyed it. That's what makes Hayden feel like we're different, we're small. There's some of the glue that holds our community together at events like that. So, Susie and crew, thank you so much.
Thank you for stepping up to MC.
Well said. Well said. And if you would, Alan, if you would pass that on to the folks in the Public Works that helped out with that.
They got up early, got the street all cleaned off, and
They did great.
kept it clean, get us all the way through the parade safely.
Excellent. Thanks again. Anything, Mr. Satterfield?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to take this opportunity. This is probably my last city council meeting, so I want to take the opportunity to thank the citizens of the city of Hayden for all of their support and have trusted me over the years. It means a lot to me. It's very humbling. We have accomplished a lot of things since I've been here. And notice I said we, not I, because in an organization like this, there is no I. It's we. I used to work for a guy that was worth $770 million, very wealthy. I asked him one time, I said, what's your secret to success here? And he said, he was a real estate guy. He says, He says, my talent is not in buying and selling and knowing the real estate market. He says, my talent is putting together the people that are smarter than me, know more than me, and can achieve what I'm after. So, having saying that, thank you, staff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And I hope whoever sits up here next has the good sense to listen to you folks. So, and I'm not going away. I'm looking forward to sitting in this audience one day and throwing my own hand grenades over the wall. So, we'll see you again.
And I still have at least half of another meeting to go yet, so.
Can I follow that up? Roger, I didn't know this was going to be your last meeting, so I was saving it for the January meeting. But that's okay. I just want to thank Roger. The hours that you have to put in on the different committees. I know Roger sits on the Hayden Area Regional Sewer Board. He sits on the Facilities Committee, and he's over his terms, he's been on other committees. I don't know what they are, but this is a labor of love. You know, you got to want to serve, and to have somebody like Roger here doing that, I just appreciate Roger taking the time away from his family and serving for the public. And that's, I just want to thank you, Roger. You've done a good job.
Thank you, Matt.
Completely agree. Ms. White?
Yes, I just wanted to talk about the urban renewal open house that we had. Mr. Mayor, you weren't here, and just regarding the open house, first of all, I'd like to say we did have a good turnout. There were at least 30 concerned citizens that came. I was really pleased with the turnout, considering it was a holiday season and all that, but I think it was well attended. My expectations were not met, though, in that I was led to believe that it would just be council members getting input from the citizens, and I was surprised to see the HURA members there at the meeting and at the different stations addressing questions. So I felt like my place as getting to hear from the people, I don't believe our goal to hear from the people was fully achieved with that override. I'm not sure who issued the invitation, but I believe the intent was for us to hear from the people. And I did get to talk to a lot of people, but I felt like the meeting was kind of askewed a bit. So, thank you.
Yep, the door was open, so. Sign-in sheet. I was at the meeting, and I did some facts and figuring and stuff like that, because I like to look at numbers and things like that. We had 29 sign-ins here, and I checked all the addresses and the like. We had 8 that were not city residents. So we had, and with 2 who was a council-elect and his wife, so we had 19 city residents. When I related those to the 23 comment cards, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9 non-residents, and I welcome their input, but they all basically said the same thing. And of the residents, basically there were 7 who were in favor of some form and 6 who said no. So there's information in numbers. So I just wanted to pass that along since the door was opened up.
The door is now closed. Any other roundtable items? Move to adjourn?
So moved.
We stand adjourned. And thank you very much for coming tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We appreciate it.